You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Ian, look at this.
What, it's a police box. What on earth's he doing here? I mean, these things are usually on the street. I feel it. I feel it. Do you feel it?
Hey, vibration.
It's alive.
Earth Station Who, a fun mashup celebrating nearly 50 years of Doctor Who universe. Hold tight. You never know where the TARDIS is going next.
You're probably a bit confused right now. I broke the glass. It's all come back to me.
What is this?
That's my ship.
What?
Let me take it from the top. Hello, I'm the Doctor. I'm a traveller in space and time. And that thing buried down there is called a TARDIS. Time and relative dimension in space. You're gonna love this.
Hey there, everyone. Welcome to the Earth Station Who podcast. Hope everybody out there is doing fine and staying safe and just, trying to make it through another day, as we like to say. We're here to talk Doctor Who because, Doctor Who is the great savior, the savior of hope, and the person who brings a glow around the galaxy. Well, depends which doctor you talk to, at least, It should be really interesting to talk about tonight's episode. We are going to be talking about the greatest show in the galaxy. It should be a lot of fun. The Seventh Doctor and Ace are off to the circus, and it's going to be a lot of fun unless you like clowns. Clowns, if you have a scary feeling about clowns, I think you might have some issues with this episode. But before we do that, let's say hey to this week's station crew. This week, we actually have a guest sitting with us. Let's welcome Matthew. Hey, sir.
Hello. How is everyone this evening?
Good. How are you? It's been a little bit since you've been on the show.
I'm doing just fine. Just like everybody else, kind of more or less stuck at home. Just trying to stay healthy and stay in some kind of shape that's not too round.
Oh, well. Round is the new,
the
health,
new normal.
Exactly. We all slowly want to become like the people on Wall-E, It's pretty easy. It's just going there anyway, naturally, and just being quarantined. Ooh, food. What do I want to eat now? Oh, I could have second breakfast. I could have, second lunch and, dinner, and can't forget dessert. Definitely not rude, indeed. But it's good to have you, sir, back with us.
It's a pleasure to be back. Thanks for having me.
No problem. We have our regulars with us, of course. The lovely and talented Mary Ogle is here.
Hi, everybody. It is fantastic to be here.
And if you could only see this tonight, folks, her background, she has a Dalek creeping up behind her. I know, kind of scary. And, of course, Mr. Mike Gordon is here.
Howdy.
And he doesn't have a Dalek creeping up behind him.
No, but a lot of clowns.
Oh, very much so. I think we all have a lot of clowns in our lives these days, so it's okay. It'll be very interesting to talk about this episode, and we definitely would love to hear from you guys. Please write us at earthstationwho@esonetwork.com. Definitely, write us. We'd love to hear what you guys thought about this episode. And we do have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's go jump in with both feet. Of course, we got no new series news yet, but we do have some news, of course, about, some stuff going on with Doctor Who. So, Matthew, you actually had some Big Finish news.
Yes, announced just in the last little while before we started recording, the Big Finish and Time Lord Victorious, which is the big multimedia event that's going to be going down across books, comics, and audio dramas later this year. Big Finish have announced their portion of that, and it's going to be 3 audios starring Paul McGann as the 8th Doctor.
Oh, awesome.
They're going to be out in October. For anybody who wants to pre-order them, their titles are Mutually Assured Destruction, The Enemy of My Enemy, and He Kills Me Not.
Nice.
And we know from 2 of those covers that he will be teaming up apparently with the Daleks. And we're also going to be seeing a story where the 8th Doctor meets the Ood.
Ooh, nice.
Ood.
Ooh.
Yes, it should be oodles of fun.
Oh, that would be very interesting.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, we see it really. So this doesn't tie in at all to the David Tennant and Tom Baker story that they're doing.
No, not at all. That's part of a whole separate thing that's going to be coming out. I think it's in July, beginning of July, something called Out of Time. So I suspect with that's just a separate part, probably was something they were already planning before this, but it looks like Shadows of the Sun that was released as part of the 4th Doctor range. It looks like it's something that may be a sort of another proof of concept for them doing the kind of online recordings they've been doing because of all the COVID stuff.
Oh, gotcha. No, it totally makes sense. All of these look really fascinating, especially the tie-ins with the books and the comics and such.
Yes.
So
it's going to be interesting. It's sort of Doctor Who's equivalent of Shadow of the Empire, for those who are Star Wars fans will remember that from the mid-90s. I feel so old saying that.
I know that they also announced, Matthew, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I know that they also announced that they're changing the way they're releasing the Doctor Who stories. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I'd be happy to. There's been rumors for 3 or 4 years now that there was talk about retiring what used to be called the main range, later became known as the monthly range. So that's the 2-disc release that comes out every month featuring either the 5th, 6th, or 7th Doctors. And the 8th Doctor used to be in that range, but of course he kind of spun off from it back around 2011. The big announcement that was done there is that as of 2022, I think it'll be, early 2022, there's going to be a retirement of the monthly range. So instead of individual releases, they're going to go to a box set format basically for each of the Doctors. So it's basically continuing the trend that started with the 8th Doctor, and that we've now seen, of course, with the 4th Doctor, but also with the 1st and 3rd Doctor adventures as well. And it looks like that's going to be crossing the board for everybody. So it's the end of the monthly range as we've known it, and I feel fine.
I knew you were going there. I knew it.
I couldn't resist.
It does sound like, because where there is one thing that, about Big Finish in particular, that when I look for stories, sometimes I'm confused as to where to start, or, whether things are part of series or whether they're not, or,
right.
What dictates whether or not, because I, even with the 4th Doctor by himself, like I know that there's box sets and then there's like one-offs or some other things. And it does seem a little confusing.
Yeah, I think it's part of it is to kind of streamline things, as I think, Big Finish has produced so much stuff, especially since the 50th. They've produced so much stuff that I think they've become to realize that it's baffling to new customers, but also there's so much stuff being put out that it's also keeping long-term customers from being able to listen to everything. So I think there had also been some talk a while back that they did that big survey 4 or 5 years ago, where they were sort of monitoring, sort of looking for the way people's opinions are and how people bought. So I think the idea is that basically you can pick a thread with a Doctor and you can buy your way forward from there, rather than trying to do a big cross-range thing.
Mm. Yeah, it definitely, and each story obviously has to take place at some point in, with the televised, what we saw with televised, and so trying to fit that in where stories take place is always kind of a challenge as well.
Right.
It'd be really interesting to see how it comes about and what they do, with what Doctors and such. Have they announced which Doctors are going to be switching over first?
They haven't really announced anything. There were some tantalizing hints in the press release that there would be some stuff, some season 6B stuff with the 2nd Doctor. So we might see what happened, between the War Games and Spirit from Space. There's always been that big fan theory that there was all those adventures that Troughton's Doctor may or may not have had. So that looks like something they hinted they're going to explore. They've also hinted that there may be some stuff with the 3rd Doctor and Sarah Jane Smith, because of course Sadie Miller has come in the Lost Stories range to play her mother's role.
True.
In the 4th Doctor audios that are coming up. So we don't know that for sure. That was sort of some cryptic hints that they dropped in that announcement. I think it was last week. So it'll be curious to see where it goes. But definitely changes in the air.
they seem to, have gotten if I dare say, it almost seems like they've gotten a little bump from this pandemic crisis that we're in, just because it seems like everybody's looking for new content. They're at home, they're doing things, and it seems like Big Finish is right there ready for them.
Yeah, and Big Finish is certainly, I don't want to say they've taken advantage of it, but they've
No, I didn't mean it that way.
Yeah, they've used it to their advantage.
They're behind it.
It's a plot.
I mean, they did go to a download first release thing, so they've been prioritizing that and also trying to keep their warehouse staff safe by not shipping out discs. And I know there's been some minor voices of miscontent on a couple of the Facebook groups and on Big Finish's Facebook page where people are upset about that. But Big Finish, I think, have certainly realized that there's an opportunity to introduce Doctor Who or Doctor Who on audio, I should say, to people who maybe haven't checked it out before. And particularly the way they've tied it in with the tweet-along stuff that's been going on. So after an adventure in space and time, the tweet-along for that, for example, Big Finish put up the first Doctor adventure sets with David Bradley on sale, for example, like 30% off. So, it's an opportunity for people to delve into it in a side of the universe where people have went, well, I've never had time to listen to this. Well, people have time now, I suppose.
You have nothing but time right now.
and now that, you have them giving out a free, something free every Monday, now we can tell what day of the week it is. So that's nice.
Yes.
Their community service.
Exactly. It's like, it must be Monday because there's a free thing on the Big Finish show.
Yeah,
indeed.
Exactly. And the end of the world always comes on Thursday. So we all know that too. So it's okay.
Thursdays. Could never get the hang of Thursdays.
Bingo. You always have to stick up your thumb. And carry a towel with you. Always need your towel.
But I am very excited about, 4 and 10 meeting up like that. That's amazing. That's what Big Finish is for. That's in my mind, to tell us stories that we dream of, happening. So
yes.
Nope, totally understand that. All right, Mikey, our friends over at Wholanta had a very big event this last Saturday.
Yeah, the reports of Wholanta being dead have been greatly exaggerated. Actually, and this was sort of, sort of an idea that Alan had last minute. Like, why can't I put on some sort of virtual convention, so to speak? So I think with only like a couple weeks, maybe, notice, he put together one day, Saturday, May 30th, Wholanta Virtual TARDIS 2020. Basically all day event from 11 to 9, all streaming. He worked with, I think, Zoom in most cases and Facebook Live, and had interviews with Colin Baker, had a great interview with Sophie Aldred. So that directly ties into the episode that we're about to review. Great interview with Rachel Talalay, director, and some panels. Some music. Moxie was performing as well. It just was a lot of fun. I didn't catch all of it, but the good news is that for those people who missed it, all of it is still available. You can just go to Facebook, and I think they're going to put it on YouTube as well. But it's all on Facebook still. If you just go to the Wholanta page, you can pull up any one of the panels and just chill out and listen to people talk about Doctor Who.
No, it's pretty darn awesome. I sadly wasn't able to catch any of the panels, but from what everyone was saying and from the little clips I caught here and there, everyone was having a great time. And bravo to Alan for putting this together. And he had his crew from Wholanta. And, all I have to say is, Matthew, ball's in your court, dude.
Wow.
Putting him on the spot.
I know, right?
Thanks, Mike. It is something. Yeah, it is something we're thinking about. Of course, we had to completely reschedule our con because our con should be this weekend. That's Conquistadores, for those who don't know, should have been this weekend, but of course, with travel issues, but also not knowing where the state with things would be, we did postpone it. It should be in October, but we may do an online event between now and then. That's
awesome, and everyone's just wait and see. You guys, Dragon Con, NY New York City Comic Con, any con, probably within the next 7 months, 8 months. Even through the end of the year, it is, pretty much wait and see. and that's the sucky thing about it. So you might be just doing virtual con. You never know.
Yeah.
So
we'll
fingers
burn
crossed.
that bridge when we get to it.
Fingers crossed.
Right, absolutely.
Exactly. And we're not putting you on the spot. Nope, would never do that. So the other thing we want to talk about real quick is bravo to BBC for putting out some Doctor Who extra materials, little shorts and such. We've talked about stuff that Russell T Davies has done, Chris Chibnall has done, Stephen Moffat has done, a few other folks have done for Doctor Who. And our friend Russell T Davies actually came out with a new one. And this one actually even brought back David Tennant as the 10th Doctor in an audio animation. It is awesome. It's The Secret of Novice Haim, and it was awesome. I want to say allergies were really up that day. And,
there was something in your eye.
My eye, it must have been some dust or something. But,
was somebody cutting onions in the kitchen, perhaps?
I'll blame Judy on that one because, it was awesome. It was wonderful because it was a direct sequel to, the 10th Doctor era, and it takes place while the Doctor was doing his farewell tour. Mm-hmm. And it was really well done. And, what did you guys think?
Oh, it was quite.
It's amazing that it's amazing that you would say that because I know a lot of people hate that tour scene.
Oh, I do too. I totally
better than
hate
the
it.
original tour.
Yes.
Yeah, because or as we called it while we were reviewing it, these are the days of your lives.
Yeah. It's like a lot of people hate that. I don't hate it. And this was a nice addition to it. It's an animated short. It's not like, fully animated, but it's
enough.
The design of it is, it is. The design of it is nice. The artwork is beautiful. It's got Murray Gold music in addition to the original voices of Tennant, and I believe that's the original voice of
Yes.
Character, the sister. The sister.
Her name's escaping me at the moment.
Emily
Anna Hope, right?
I think so.
Yeah. And so that it's just beautiful. So sometimes they get it right, and man, they got it right.
They did.
Oh, they did.
When RTD is on, I mean, he writes character really well, and he just pulled you right in. And
there's a little controversy though already with this. I don't know if you guys have heard, because they threw a little thing in about the regenerations.
Yeah, she has a line about I've had hundreds of faces. Is it, male, female, animal? And people are like, what?
Exactly. Why does the Doctor have to look humanoid? Is what they're saying. In one of the couple of the regenerations, the Doctor could have been a furry. Something like.
You go, Russell.
Yeah, exactly.
What I want is a penguin Doctor having a reunion story with Frobisher. That's what I want.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. So no, that would have been really cool. And I thought it was perfect. It wasn't that long. It was 10 minutes, I think.
About 11 minutes. Yeah.
So, and it was, if you haven't get a chance to see it, folks, it's all over. It's up on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's, you definitely can't miss it. And, the Doctor Who Lockdown series they're doing is pretty darn awesome. I don't know if you guys also have seen, they did another one featuring all the Doctors. And it starts with the fourth Doctor being locked in his TARDIS.
Oh, yeah. That's not an official thing.
No, it isn't, because it isn't even the real voices.
No,
right.
Except for Colin, right?
No, none of them.
Oh,
none of them are. It's
Colin, it was in that. But no, you're probably right.
Yeah, I know Jacob Dudman's in there. Tim Treloar, who voices the third Doctor now at Big Finish, was involved with it. I can't remember who else was involved with it, but it was sort of a...
The first Doctor is Bradley.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. I think that one went on a little too long.
Yes, it did.
Yeah. I think a lot of people didn't get that was supposed to be a comedy sketch, because I did see a lot of people sort of annoyed with it online. And it's like, it's a comedy sketch. Give it a rest, people.
Well, exactly. And, you know, taking the mannerisms of the Doctor and just making fun of each one and everything. And I love how they have the picture of the second Doctor with the Beatles. It was awesome.
Yeah. I'd forgotten about that.
It was pretty cool. So, yeah, there's some fun stuff up there for Doctor Who. And
yeah, Chibnall's got his work cut out for him, because when we finally get new Who, it's like, look at all this stuff that we got that wasn't really, like, you know, official. It was really great, and it moved us. Now
you do that.
Now you,
Chibnall.
yeah, and you do that.
Talk about putting somebody on the spot.
Exactly. Look at all these former showrunners that are coming back and doing stuff that's better than you've done. No, just kidding.
yeah, hell, even Paul Cornell even did something.
Yeah.
It was pretty awesome. And that was awesome. The sequel to Family of Blood,
which came in for a lot of flack from a certain section of the fandom, but you're gonna
get it.
Fandom's gonna give you some.
I'm shocked, Matthew.
Like,
please.
what? Crazy.
You can't please everybody.
I am totally shocked.
Yeah, not at all.
Exactly. What did you guys think at home? Did you guys like this stuff? You know, we want to definitely hear from you. Write us, earthstationwho@esonetwork.com. You know, definitely let us know what you guys are thinking. So let's take a quick break, and we'll be back in a minute. And we are going to be going to the greatest show in the galaxy.
Woo! We are Nerdlanta. We got these filters. I think they're called pea poppers. That's exciting. Peas. Yeah. For popping all the peas.
Sweaty balls and pea poppers. Always a good time.
Can a podcast be a reboot?
Oh, God, yes. The next generation.
Yes.
That's awesome.
We are highly caffeinated at a late hour.
You know, it's just always fun to talk about geeky stuff. And Nerdlanta is the place to do it.
I guess that's it. We played the promo.
So. That was an awesome promo.
Welcome back. Now we are going to the greatest show in the galaxy, running from December 14th, 1988 to January 4th, 1989. It was interesting. It was a 4-parter, and I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting that they were in the period when they were doing like the 2 45-minute episodes at that period.
That's Collins, which is a few years before this.
Yeah, I know that, but it always gets very fuzzy and everything with it and everything. But it was interesting because I love Sylvester and Sophie together. They are just awesome. But I liked a lot of the different characters in this one. It was very interesting to see, and I haven't seen this story in almost 30 years. So
yeah, it's probably been longer than that for me.
Yeah. So it's just really interesting to see, and you know, I'm going to be enjoying talking about this. Basically, the Doctor gets a visitor in the TARDIS, and you know they're doing, I guess,
you get spam.
Exactly, they get spam mail, junk mail, as Ace was calling it.
Yes.
Little did she know what was to come in real life. And it was really interesting that, you know, they ended up in another quarry. It was awesome.
And that kind of happened too in Kablam, or is that episode with the
in Kablam they get a package delivered to the TARDIS.
Yeah, it's not junk mail.
Gotcha.
But it's still something materializing in the TARDIS.
Yeah, something yes. Yeah, this sort of like, you know, this supposedly impenetrable box, you know, that like things just like if it's not impenetrable.
Things get in all the time.
Yeah,
right.
Well,
look, I don't worry about that.
Yeah. Well, the Kerblam man from that looks a bit like the bus conductor from this, too, for that matter. I happened to think of that when I was
reading it. Very true.
That's true. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Right down to the hat and the button on the top.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Too bad Bellboy wasn't around for Kerblam. You
know? This is the first time I've watched this one ever, so I didn't know what to expect. You know, as you guys know, it's not my favorite era. So my expectations were low, but I enjoyed the hell out of this show. Like, I thought it was a fun story. I like the character designs. I like the characters. I like the story. It didn't sort of drag for me, which is great. I would put it above Kablam if we're comparing.
No, we're not. Trust us, we're not.
But I enjoyed it. I mean, there's a couple things I could nitpick for sure, but this is one of the better Seventh Doctor and Ace stories that I've seen.
It is very fast moving. It doesn't drag at all, and which is nice. And you have that a lot with some of the stories in this era, especially coming from the Colin era, which dragged completely. Sylvester's stories, I think that's partly because of Andrew Cartmel and, you know, his direction he was trying to push the show, and also his overseeing the writing and everything too, which is pretty nice. But this was almost a story that almost didn't get made. They did all the exterior shots for it, and then there was a strike, I think, or something like that.
There was asbestos in BBC Television Center.
That's right. There was asbestos, and they had to close the center, so they couldn't do the interior shots for this. So this almost went way of Shada.
Yeah, John Nathan Turner in his memoirs, which are available on audio from Big Finish, talked about there that he literally got a phone call at the Doctor Who production office one day from BBC management, basically going, we've looked at the schedules, we're having to fit everybody in, we've decided your show's going to be cut. And apparently his response to it was, well, like blank you are. And he apparently fought tooth and claw because at one point he thought this was going to be his last story, and he was determined not to go, as it happened to his predecessor Graham Williams, not to have a Shada. So he pushed for it. They actually filmed a lot of the tent stuff in a parking lot at the Elstree Film Studios, which by this point were owned by the BBC because that's where EastEnders is filmed. So they basically, let's do the show right here, I think is the way John Nathan Turner puts it in the memoirs.
You can actually see scenes, photographs and stuff of the crew because there was a fire at the studio in one of the other studios, and they had to evacuate all the different sets, and you see all the different people from the different shows interacting with each other.
Yes.
And it's pretty awesome.
It might be something, it's one of those things where it's a happy accident, because I think, the way it's filmed and everything, it doesn't feel very studio-ish. So I think that's why. And it actually gives it a better feeling than some of the other stories around this era for me.
No, they actually built a tent in the parking lot for this.
Yeah.
And the tent actually works. Within
the
story.
I mean, in some stories it might not have worked, but for this one, it's like perfect.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like Spearhead from Space from the beginning of the Pertwee year, because that was another case where they couldn't get into the studio to do it. They basically went, we're going to make this work here, and we'll find the locations and we'll do it. And it worked splendidly because of that. But I do think if it had been any other story from this season, it might not have worked. You think about what this story might have looked like, Happiness Patrol, which is just 2 stories before it. It's supposed to be a big, expansive story, and it's clearly a cramped studio somewhere, which, as good as that story is in terms of the writing and the performances, it just looks like it's being shot on the cheap in a BBC studio.
Exactly. And that's what made it, these characters they had in this were so rich. And, everything from, Captain Cook, Mags was awesome. I really liked Mags, and it was pretty awesome. Rico Ross as the Ringmaster, because Rico Ross has been in so many different things. He was even in Aliens.
No. The rapping Ringmaster.
Yeah, that's true.
I'd forgotten about that until I started watching it this afternoon. I went, oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's in the first 5 minutes. It's like, oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah. And now we have to say, come on. It was like
Psychic Circus, and we have to say.
Exactly. It's just like, damn. But then it was just interesting, And then what confused me at first is when the people teleported to the planet on the landing platform, first the motorcycle and then the kid on the bike.
Yep.
And it was just like, are they already part of the circus? Because it had this big Psychic Circus thing. And it's like, oh, they must work with the circus. But then you realize that's where the customers are coming in.
Yeah, they're the audience.
Yep. Exactly.
Well,
the audience.
They think they're the audience.
Exactly.
Audience or the performers.
Yes.
Exactly.
Everybody wants to work for the circus. So, so it must be, obviously it's got to, I didn't know if it was being broadcast because it seems like it still has, Uber fans and whatnot and people who still want to be part of it. Or if it's just still existing and based on reputation.
reputation, it seemed like, because the kid was like, oh, I got your posters from when you were here and here and here, and I'm your biggest fan. That whole thing.
It does feel like a bit of a dig at sort of late 80s, particularly British Doctor Who fandom that was insisting throughout the McCoy era that the show's not as good as it used to be, and, we could do a better job of it if we were just given the chance, et cetera, et cetera. And, it's hard not to look at the Whiz Kid as kind of a representation of that. And he does get to go on, and he does get to perform, and, we see how it ends.
He gets, yeah.
Yeah. All that's left are the glasses.
Yes.
Exactly. It was interesting, and I liked the motorbike. That was pretty awesome.
Yes.
And I would have liked to have that, but he was a total jerk.
Yeah.
I'm not
too sure about the guy's helmet thing.
Oh, the bat helmet?
The bat thing.
Exactly. A little dig at Batman there, But I liked it. It was interesting. The clowns were creepy as hell.
Oh.
And especially when they first introduced them, you didn't know which ones were robots or which one was a real person, and that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was very effective, actually.
Mm-hmm. And the chief clown, oh god, with the
he was creepy
with the hand motions and everything.
Yeah, he was perfect. Perfectly designed, perfectly acted. Like that Harlequin-esque clown is just like the creepiest clown, I think.
Mm. Oh, and everywhere where he turned the corner, you'd see that smile, and it was just like, oh,
yes.
It was creepy.
Yeah, as somebody who does not like clowns, I think this is why this is a McCoy story I don't revisit very often, because he is creepy AF, as the kids say.
Yeah. But it took a few minutes to try to realize what was going on. When you had what was it, Bellboy and Flower Child? Yeah, running from whatever where they're trying to escape, or
the surveillance.
Well, they're trying to just get away from the circus.
And then the surveillance kites. It's like, oh, remote control kites. Gee, they saw right into the future. We just call them drones now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't really show up later. I thought they might, but yeah. I you know what, the way the story's played out too, yes, it is confusing, and sometimes I get, especially during this era, I get worried that it's not going to pay off. Like, it's just, we're not going to know, what's going on. But I do admit, with this story, it seems like they do a really good job with, if you were patient, you will find out what's going on with everybody. And it all kind of connects together in a way that is pretty satisfying.
It was interesting because I don't know about you guys, but I always felt like the Doctor always was in control in this one.
No, I felt like he was an idiot, actually. I think this is one of the weakest ones as far as, he doesn't feel like he knows anything.
I don't feel like that at all, especially even down to when he went down to go into the ring itself and was doing his performance. He knew exactly. He knew that Ace, he was even looking at his watch, knowing to the time.
In the last act. But before that, he's just he's completely, at least gives the appearance anyway. And that's, you never know about the Doctor that way, right?
Yeah.
But at least in the beginning, he just seems completely ignorant about who Captain Cook is and what he's all about, what Mags is all about, what the circus is all about. He doesn't, usually the Doctor gets he does say that there's evil here, but then he just sort of forgets about it almost, it feels like. And then there's some things that happen that surprise him that I just felt like he should have known better. I didn't really find it as strong, the Doctor's in control here. I think he saves everything at the end, sure, but prior to that, I actually thought Ace was amazing.
Awesome.
Yes.
Ace was awesome.
She was much more on top of it.
No, I also felt like the scene where Captain Cook and the Doctor were in the cell, and the Doctor had observed, everything what Captain Cook was about. He knew that, he was a braggart. He knew that he was just trying to, be out for himself. He would throw anyone under the bus who was in the, And that's, even the thing, how he took the coins from Captain Cook, after he saw that they were the double-sided coins, that he knew what they were and everything. So I think the Doctor was a little more with it than you thought.
Yeah. It's part of that kind of transition between the more comedic Doctor of that first season, when they were playing him for laughs to a large extent. Mm-hmm. And then you get into that last season they do, you start getting particularly into Ghostlight and Fenric, where he's suddenly becoming the person who's in charge of everything and knows all the variables. So I think this is part of that transition towards that point, because there is a sense, I think, going into it from the beginning, he sort of knows something's here, but he doesn't know what, and he sort of pieces it together by the point at the end where, as Mike says, he's looking at his watch going, okay, Ace, any moment now.
And he's not, I mean, that last act is beautiful. I mean, he's confident, he's going up against the gods of Ragnarok, and he's not concerned at all. He knows what they're about. He knows how to destroy them. He knows his friends are going to come through. He has everything planned. He's buying, he's buying for time. And I think that last act, he's really strong. But there was some stuff in the middle of that. I was just like, I didn't really feel like, he should have been taken by surprise as much, for me. But apart from that, I mean, it's still, and I like the fact that in that, like you said, Matt, in that last act, you get the sense that he's, all the stuff about the Sylvester era Doctor, that he's much more than just a Time Lord. Like there's like some mystical stuff about him that his ties with Merlin and other stuff like that is just like, it seems like that's really there in that last act too.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of felt that way throughout, because the way he kept saying he was sensing danger, that to me, but that's an interesting point, Matthew. That's how it felt to me too, that this was really a transition episode between what he started out to be and what Andrew Cartmel ultimately wanted him to be.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh my God, I felt like I was gagging when Ace and the Doctor were eating that melon type.
Oh yeah, and it went on and on.
Oh, it was just like,
it looked disgusting.
It was just like, and it was like, well, madam, it's like, you hippie freaks, It was just like, which was pretty darn awesome. I enjoyed a lot of that, and it was just fun to see, and for an episode where it was filmed in a quarry, I thought the matting was awesome. The scene where they were coming up to the tent and you saw like a Saturn type planet behind them.
Yeah, that
with
was
the
actually
rings.
quite beautiful.
Yes.
That was gorgeous.
Yeah.
That was really, especially for Doctor Who at that era, it was really gorgeous.
Well, they were.
Yeah, they didn't try to, like, a lot of the robots and everything. I mean, certainly the last one with the big one anyway that appears in the beginning. It's in foreshadows, and then we see it at the end. I thought that one was pretty weak, but the rest of them, like, and even the gods of Ragnarok themselves, I don't like the fact they were called the gods of Ragnarok, but that's something else. But because there's no ties to Norse mythology here whatsoever. But
yeah, that just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, they just kind of throw that term out there, and I'm like, that's a word that's got a lot of stuff invested in it. You might have selected something else, but in any case, I thought they looked cool. They look like they were stone creatures. I thought they were great.
Oh, exactly. It was, especially, when they were sitting up there, the three of them, it was just like, oh, that looks good. They almost look like they were carved in the same stone as that temple.
Do a good job at that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's like the McCoy era is sort of the show figuring out again how it can do things on a budget, because I think partially through the Davison era, but also especially during Collins' era, they sort of forgot that they were trying to make a show on a low budget. And they kept overextending themselves in terms of what they could do, to the point you could see the joins and it didn't work. Things like the Merca, for example, in Warriors of the Deep. But it was like throughout the McCoy year, they're sort of relearning, okay, we know we don't have a huge budget. What can we do on the budget that we have that's going to be effective? And things like that shot that you mentioned, or the fact that it's all set in the tent and they know that they can do the corridors and stuff well. I think it's a representation of that. They figured out again, this is how we can make Doctor Who on the budget that we have.
No, totally makes sense. And they did it really well, especially finding out after what they had to deal with.
Yeah.
With the studio, and it was really cool. Even down to the painting on the bus, it actually looked very authentic.
Yeah.
That you would see that on a hippie bus. Trust me, I grew up with that. I know what they look like. I know what they look like.
I was like, is the Partridge Family going to show up sometime?
Either that or the Merry Pranksters or something like that.
Yeah. That bus apparently was part of the BBC exhibits for the longest time until right before the show came back, because they had to change where they were exhibiting at, and they decided they didn't have anywhere to keep the bus anymore. So the bus got broke down, and then they regretted it later because that bus would have been great for things like the Doctor Who experience.
Mm-hmm.
No, exactly. And it's pretty awesome. I'm very happy with watching it. It was entertaining. The 4 episodes, like I said, flew by, and, there's not much to complain about. I think the worst part is, when they decided to get rid of the Ringmaster and the Gypsy, it was just like, oh, just throw them in the basket. Poof, they were gone.
They just disappear, yeah.
Exactly.
It's simple but effective, though, because they could have gone for a big effect that might not have worked, and instead that's the way they did it.
Well, they didn't even show any of the people being destroyed. You just heard the screaming and a flash of a light from off the screen.
Right, or some smoke.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's what you can't see because you let the audience fill it in for you. Talking about what Big Finish does earlier, that's something that one of the great skills Big Finish has is you can give enough hints to the audience will fill in the gruesome bits for you.
Well, exactly. It's like a Hitchcock movie where it plays in your mind what's happening to them.
Right.
And, if my life depended on 3 people who held up a sign that said 0, 0, 0, God, I don't know what I would do for a performance. Shush! Don't anyone say anything.
I think we know if we did a podcast, we would get
0, 0.
We would not last long. we would not last like what were we on now, 200 and some episodes here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or they would do like they did poor Nord in was it part 2 where he does the whole weightlifting thing and they're impressed. He's like, now tell a joke. He's like,
exactly. And they don't give him a chance to think of one, the poor bastard.
Yep.
Oh, well.
He's just out of there.
Exactly. It's like, okay, you're done. You're gone. Yeah. Oh, well.
There's an argument to be made that the gods of Ragnarok are the TV audience in a very kind of meta sort of way, because they're always demanding more. They keep wanting to be pleased by it. And even though there's an argument that the whole thing may be a metaphor for where the show is in the late 80s, with, the Ringmaster and stuff going, we're doing the best we can with what we've got. And the audience is going, not good enough.
More.
Exactly. Well, that's still fandom today. Hello.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. Let's, any final thoughts before we rate this one?
So we should change our name. Instead of Earth Station Who, we should be the Pod of Ragnarok.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna 0.
And that was the last howdy we heard.
Yes. There we go, 0. There you go.
Has there been any, like some of the characters here, particularly Mags, and the circus themselves?
Yeah.
Certainly it does leave it open to the fact that the circus in some form, with Mags and Deadbeat, are going to go.
Kingpin, come on.
Sorry, Kingpin, rather. Sorry. And Kingpin are going to carry on. I wonder, has that ever been followed up? Has there been a big finish or anything?
There has been a big finish. There's been a sequel.
Yeah. Yes. There's a whole trilogy of stories with the Seventh Doctor and Ace later on in their timeline meeting Mags again. So they actually take her on their travels. I haven't heard any of those, so I can't speak to them, but I do know they exist.
Was it played by Jessica Martin?
Yes, she did come back to do it. And fun fact, she was the voice of Queen Elizabeth II at the end of Voyage of the Damned. When the Titanic comes crashing down and it picks up, that voice, thank you, Doctor. That's Jessica Martin who actually does that voice.
Well, she's a very well-known impressionist.
Yes, she is.
And everything in the UK. And so
and
she's acted in a lot of different stuff.
Yes. And going back to Big Finish for a second, there's a prequel/sequel, depending on whose timeline you're going with here, that was released in January, which I also haven't heard, funnily enough, as part of the monthly range, called appropriately The Psychic Circus, also written by Stephen Wyatt and featuring a lot of the cast returning as well.
Pretty awesome.
Very cool. I noticed that when I looked it up on Wikipedia and doing some other research, that this is one of the few, or at least one of the first that I've seen that has the soundtrack available.
Yes.
Because, you want those rap songs to listen to. I got to order that, pre-order that like now. But look, I think one thing that's been consistent this year is that we haven't had much luck when it comes to Doctor Who and music. But I was surprised to see that this episode in particular has its own soundtrack. Is that unique as well?
What it is that a lot of the tapes weren't kept for a lot of the earlier soundtracks. So there's a lot of the Dudley Simpson stuff, like, the iconic music from City of Death, for example, is gone. They don't have the original tapes to do a recording off of that.
Right.
But Mark Ayers did keep his recording tapes from all of his recording sessions. So we do have the soundtracks to this, Curse of Fenric, and Ghostlight that he did. So it was unusual because it was one of the first ones done, because I think it was released in like 92. There's been talk.
It's pretty awesome, though. The number 2 song on this is the Psychic Rap.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Of course.
It's got all the raps. It's got all the raps here.
And if memory serves, there's a suite of music about 8 minutes long from this that's on the 4-CD 50th anniversary release they did as well, sort of a compilation of 50 years of Who music and sound effects.
That is awesome. That is really awesome. Okay, kids, let's go ahead and rate this. 1 out of 5 TARDISes, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. Matthew, you go first, buddy.
Yes. I'm going to give it 4. I think 4 TARDISes out of 5. There's a lot of the story that I quite like. McCoy's great in it. Aldred is as well. Their chemistry has just been firmly established, and they're just firing off of each other. And even apart, they do some really good stuff. It's got a great cast of characters. I love the fact that Captain Cook is kind of this darkened version of the Doctor. If you think about it, he's an intergalactic traveler. He's met all these people. He's been all these places. But he's just completely out for himself. He's not interested in saving anybody.
Well, I took it that he didn't meet as many people as he sounded more like a braggart type thing.
Yeah, it was hard to know how much was true.
Yeah, exactly. Like, one of those like Tommy Flanagan things like, yeah, I met the Morgan Fairchild. Yeah.
Quite possibly. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, but that's what I came across that. But yeah, 4 is a good number.
Yeah. And it's head and shoulders above Stephen Wyatt's previous Who script. He had done Paradise Towers the previous season, if memory serves, which is not my favorite Seventh Doctor story by any means. So I'm happy that, Andrew Cartmel brought him back in and they took another crack at it, because they did some really good work here.
I hate to tell you, that's the only Seventh Doctor story we have not done yet.
You may not want me on for that one, is all I'm going to say. I'm happy to go. I'm happy to.
I don't know. You'll still probably like it more than I have on some of these ones. So
quite possibly.
But.
All right, Mary, go ahead.
Let's see. I think I'm going to give it a 3.75 because, I found the story kind of messy in places. And it just wasn't as cohesive as perhaps it could have been. However, I loved the characters. Sometimes Mag seemed a little bit too much like a plot device, and I wasn't thrilled about that. But I did love the character of Mags.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Gods of Ragnarok just really just come out of nowhere. There's just no lead up to that. And I wish there had been, because I think that would have made it more interesting. But, it held my interest throughout. It was very entertaining. They did a lot with very little. And in fact, I think it works in their favor, the spare sets. And actually the makeup and the costuming are really good in this one. And creepy. Oh my God, the clouds are creepy.
Well,
so yeah, I would definitely recommend people check this one out. And I think Sylvester and Ace make a wonderful team. I love to watch them playing off each other. So, yeah, 3.75.
That's awesome. All right, Mr. Mike.
One of the last, at least just, currently, as of current times, one of the last albums that featured all the 4 original members of KISS was called Psychic Circus. And
right.
and I've got that, and I've had that song in my head now for the last 4 days, because every time someone says Psychic Circus, I just want to rock out. But but that aside, I really like this one. I don't know if I was just in the mood, and I underestimated it, and it just gave me what I needed, because it was entertaining, it was fun. We haven't even talked about the Doctor, where the third act where he, or the fourth, the last act where he, does all the magic stuff. I mean, that's Sylvester you just enjoy Sylvester there. He's just
it's Sylvester
so
being Sylvester.
Yes. Exactly. It really is. I'm like, man, I don't, I know during the research it said that he had to be sort of trained, and I'm like, what? He didn't know that? I expect Sylvester just to have that stuff in his back pocket. I can do magic tricks. He just seems like that kind of guy. But
yeah, he walks down the street, have eggs coming out of his mouth and everything.
Ace is great. The rest of, I thought the direction of this one is great because it moves. The shots are great. The shot selections are great. The performances are great. I think this is one of the better ones, certainly that I've seen from the Seventh Doctor era, and I wouldn't have a problem recommending this one. So I'm going to go with Matthew and give it a 4 as well.
Awesome. Oof, this is where I get into trouble, because I love Sylvester and Sophie. They are 2 of my favorite teams on Doctor Who. I think so. Doctor and Ace is up there with Sarah Jane and the Fourth Doctor. It's just the chemistry between them is just awesome, and I love it. And it's I was thrilled that Ace was my first companion I ever got to meet of Doctor Who and got to interview for the podcast. And it was that special to me. And, this was the only thing that would have made it better is if Sarah Jane Smith was sitting right next to her, that would have been just but, this story, it moved. I liked it. But the clowns creeped me out so freaking much. I'm going to give this a 3.5. I enjoyed it a lot. I felt it was a little weak, the whole thing. Just you saw the 2 people come to the circus other than the Doctor and, Captain Cook and such to come to, you would expect if it's a psychic circus that is getting people from around the galaxy to come to their show, it would have been more crowded or something, or, more people coming to sacrifice. But, it's only a half hour, episodes. So there's only so much they could do. So I enjoyed it. It was good. There were little things I wish they could have tweaked better, including the Gods of Ragnarok, the explanation for them. Before the circus came, were they just stranded on this planet? There was no explanation about that. You kind of got hinted that, they somehow took over the circus and they got stuck there. And, they became, evil or whatever they became. So there was little lack of explanation on that, which would have been nice to have a little bit more. But I enjoyed it. It was good. And, loved seeing Sylvester and Sophie. So on with the next episodes, as we like to say. Well, we only have one more to watch. And as Matthew said,
one of the things that one of the things that Mary said, I just thinking about too, and I'm surprised because the costumes on this are great, from the clown makeup and all that to Bellboy. Looks like he's raiding Adamant's wardrobe. But I'm surprised that this one isn't cosplayed more. I was maybe I just haven't recognized it because this is the first time I'm seeing it. But I'm surprised I don't see more cosplay from this because the costumes are great.
Well, don't take this wrong. You might have seen them at Dragon Con, but you would think, oh, the guy works at the hotel or something. So, I don't know about that, but it would have been interesting to see the clown would have been great. I would.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be on the lookout for him now because, I think that there's a, for cosplayers out there that are like banging their heads, like trying to think of a new or unique Doctor Who outfit. This is ripe with them.
Go for the clown.
Go for the clown.
This is ripe with them. If I see a God of Ragnarok in person, that would be pretty badass.
That would be cool. Or you could see, someone dressed as Mags. Would be also pretty cool.
Yes, that would
absolutely
be cool.
Or even like Captain Cook. It's pretty simple, right? You'd think that some people would just be like, I don't know what to do. Oh, you just got a pith helmet. Okay, I can do Captain Cook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then you have to think, is he Uncle Fraggle or something also? So from Fraggle Rock,
or just a steampunk explorer cosplayer.
Yeah,
exactly.
He looks more generic.
Exactly. So it could be anything. All you need is the hat. But speaking of that, we'd love to hear from you guys. What did you guys think of this episode? Please write us, earthstationwho@esonetwork.com. So let's go wrap up the episode for this week. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us there.
Well, thank you very much for having me again. Always a pleasure.
Always great. And, do you want to promote the con real quick?
Yes, Con Castabras, hopefully October 10th and 11th here in Huntsville, Alabama. We are still hoping that we'll have all of our pre-announced guests, so we'll have Catherine Tate joining us, as well as Eric Roberts and his wife Eliza, who, of course, appeared in the TV movie, and also Kelly Yates, the IDW Titan comic book artist.
Excellent. Great set of guests.
And Matt, also promote your blog and writings and stuff, because I've enjoyed reading your stuff and your reviews as well.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So I am Warp Factor, which is a site I contributed to from 2014 to 2017, did have sort of a bit of a resurrection earlier this year. So you can find more of my stuff on warpfactor.com. I think it's /Matthew-Kresal. I also have a book out. It's non-Doctor Who, looking at the 1990s NBC UFO alternate history conspiracy series, Dark Skies, which is out now from Obverse Books.
Very nice, sir. Very, very nice. And can you find that up on Amazon, or where can they find it?
You can get the ebook. If you're here in the States, you can get the ebook directly from Obverse, so obverse.co.uk. It is not on Amazon, sadly, but if you'd like to order a physical copy, you can just plug in Silver Archive Dark Skies into Lulu. One of the joys of having a small British publisher as your publisher.
Nope. That's pretty awesome. That is really awesome. And, of course, let's thank our regulars for being here. Miss Mary Ogle.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was a really fun episode to talk about.
It was always great. You want to promote your artwork real quick?
Sure. You can find my artwork at maryogle.com or on Etsy at eVision Arts.
Is the Dalek painting that we're looking at, is that featured there? Because people really need to check that out. It's pretty badass.
I think it is on my website.
Excellent. And of course, Mr. Mike Gordon.
As always, it's my pleasure.
Okay, kids, we are done for the week. We will be back again in 2 weeks. Thank you guys for everyone for joining us. In 2 weeks, we will be looking at our 10 favorite Doctor Who stories of the past decade.
Ooh.
So it should be a lot of fun to check out and to figure out, because you'll probably be throwing tomatoes at us after some of the stories we're going to be picking. So it should be a lot of fun. Until then, my name is Mike Faber. We will see you here next time on the Earth Station Who podcast. Peace and stay safe. And we're done. Boom.
Yoo-hoo!
You have been listening to Earth Station Who, a bi-weekly pop culture podcast dedicated to all things Doctor Who, featuring talents from across the universe. All topics on the show are the sole opinions of the individual and are used for entertainment value alone. You subscribe to our podcast up on iTunes, Stitcher, or follow our blog at www.esopodcast.com. You can also follow us up on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. If you enjoyed the show, please leave feedback up on iTunes.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping through Amazon.com or the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.